not in isolation, but in conjunction with all the other objectives that we have on the brand. So I'll give you a very quick example. Like if there's a brand and that we are trying, it's a small brand trying to build the brand and the business, primarily driven through programmatic, and one becomes very fixated on delivering a certain ROAS, then that would essentially tell me not to scale the investment in itself, because the moment I scale the investment, it's very likely that my ROAS immediately would reflect much lesser than what I'm trying to deliver. Now, that is not my end objective. So ROAS is not my end objective. My end objective is always to build the business, build the brand, and hence the business. So it's very important that we look at these metrics, track them, improve them, but also keep the bigger picture in mind. And if in the short term, sometimes we have to compromise on some of these metrics in order to, whether it's scale up, and hence there is a knee-jerk reaction to some of the metrics in the meanwhile, that should be okay. So none of these metrics should be looked in isolation. It's the trend that matters more. The other part of it, which I think is more of an expectation that I have usually when I'm working with my media partners, and I think something which we as an industry can improve upon, is how do I really say with confidence that this is my benchmark? And I think, I do a lot of work in that space, and I think there's good progress happening, but there's more that I would desire when really saying that this is the benchmark, setting those benchmarks, setting those targets, and how do you set your goal post on those is a very important place where we need to continuously make improvement.
Wonderful. That's a very nice point, because it also makes you then go on an improvement mode rather than chasing the long tail or the ROAS or what a single digit number, right? Fair point. And Suresh, I'm going to ask you the same question because you joined in late a bit, but we'll bring you up to speed. The debate is on branding versus performance. And of course, the discussion, few questions and discussions, whether both are equally important, they tango together, two sides of the same coin. You can't really say this versus that. And they coexist. The question that I was asking Ritu was, we define branding basis unique users, and there are definitions which are standardized now. Do you see an enhancement, what that just Ritu was encouraging us to think, and a journey on these definitions that you would like to look at it from your brand perspective?
Thank you for accepting me this late in the discussion. But to address the whole point of what is better, should we do brand building, should we do performance? And I believe before me, all of stalwarts on this panel must have elaborated that both are important. The industry that I come from primarily is a very commoditized business, and for a brand that I represent, VIP, everybody knows VIP. So the brand equity is really very strong. But does that answer to anything that converts into sale? Somebody walks into a store and just sees, okay, this is a VIP luggage, just pick it up and walk away. COVID has taught us this, that when everything came to a standstill, there are multiple brands that came up and just made a difference. And no longer do you see luggage as a category which is very mundane, it's very purposeful, it's become a fashion statement. Brands like Mobara, Assembly, Nesha Miles have brought in that aspect of fashion in this industry. And if you ask me what is the go-to mechanism, they all do performance marketing. And did they do branding? To a certain extent, yes. Samsonite Grip did branding, but the only base layer that they depend on, the foundation that they depend on, is performance marketing. And if you ask me what we are doing, we still think both is important, because we are trying to push the envelope for the consumers, primarily because anybody here cannot guess the fact that luggage industry is just 12% penetration in Indian market. Yeah. So an average Indian doesn't travel more than 100 kilometers a month. So you can imagine the scope for this industry to grow. So for every category, if you see, there is a point in time when they have to heavily invest in branding so that they recruit more consumers.
True.
And they recruit more people to start using branded products, because there's a lot of consumer promise comes with it. On contrary, you will say that, okay, fine, but others are doing performance marketing, you should also do. We have started our journey on that. And customer data, I think so, FMCGs and if you ask me, apparel industry, fashion industry, they're heavily dependent on that. For me, it is that every consumer who buys writes in his name, phone number, email ID, and goes. So I know once he's in the cycle, every 3 years he wants to buy a new bag, or there is a possibility, highest possibility of buying a new bag. I can upsell everything to him. But the point is that how soon and how well can I leverage this? Because at the moment of time, I don't know your psyche of what you want right now. Okay, you probably want a different luggage set for, say, a summer vacation. You have a different luggage set for a winter vacation. You probably want to use everything. You want to use the same thing on business. And so my, if you ask me, what is my spectrum of consumer? It is also impulse. It also is a necessity, and also is a planned purchase. So in all of these three things, I personally think that one brand should never cease doing its branding thing. But at the baseline, all of us should always continue to be performance driven, because at the end of the day, when I go in front of my leadership, they will always ask, "Itna kharcha kiya, kya dhanda kiya?" Yeah.
But natural, right?
Yeah.
Like if I explain the branding journey and we have to do this, and then finally you see, oh, bas itna hi number aaya. That's the constant push we all would be getting, right? And that's a fair ask, because ultimately after spending money, you cannot say, abhi 2 saal baad dekho magic. You really can't do that, right? There is an immediate need and there is a long-term need. And that makes it very interesting, because Kaushik, in your industry, how does that transform? Because it is depending on the economy, it is depending on many variables, from a capital investment perspective of whether I want to take a financing option or not taking a financing option. How does the brand performance equation work?
Well, obviously, we are fortunate to be in India, where the last 10 years have seen great growth, barring maybe a COVID period, which was a black swan event. But in general, if you ask me, more than getting customers, the challenge is getting the right customer. Because I make money not by giving loans. I make money by getting the payment back.
Correct.
When the payment comes back, and the ability to pay, is get the right customer through the right medium is the main challenge.
Got it.
And obviously there are credit parameters and scores which is there. But having said that, as a brand, we believe that obviously to have a longer kind of funnel of customers who will be able to target for a longer period of time through their whole life cycle, you have to spend and invest in the brand. We have been continuously been doing it, and we have actually upped the as an organization, we have upped the kind of focus on that. If you know, from last year, we are one of the title sponsors of Women's Premier League.
Yes.
And then we signed up with GroupM.
Yes.
So we are trying to reach out to more and more people, because obviously it's a crowded space.
Yes.
There are players like the big banks who are there and who has the natural advantage of lower cost of fund and all that. Even the NBFC space, to be top of mind, you have to be shouting from the top, because otherwise there are so much of options, and then there are neo banks and digital only banks and small banks. And so though it looks like, but in India on record, if you see, credit penetration is abysmally low compared to many countries, but the right audience is also small. So as a result, everyone wants to give loan to a person who doesn't want to take a loan. So that's the dichotomy. Having said that, because we have been spending all through, we have long back stopped kind of measuring our brand campaigns till up to reach. I mean, obviously, one has gone down to the extent now we look at customer life cycle value, not only the conversion rate, but also to the extent that how over a period of time how much business at various life stage of the same person I'm getting,
Yes.
and what is the cost incurred by the organization to do that.
Yes.
So, I mean, obviously, various organizations will be at various stages, but I think we are reaching a stage where the brand spends are naturally flowing in and helping the performance marketing. And as a result, whenever we do, I mean, performance is always kind of a activity, but during the 2-3 months or 4 months of brand spend, we always see very high conversion into the performance side.
Yeah.
Naturally, people buy more or invest more or whatever. So I'm saying it has to be together, and it has to be hybrid. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. A question to you, Apurva, is in the same spirit. You have a large physical network of showroom, you have an online presence, you have a marketplace presence. How do you evaluate your branding versus performance in such a scenario? Because retail is another challenging space on customer acquisition and life cycle also.
So it's clearer to derive the customer's life cycle or lifetime value should the distribution be unilateral, right? You've acquired a person in a digital space and then you're able to convert them in a digital space. That's linear, right? And that's measurable. And then you obviously put a retention machinery behind it. It gets, as you said, it gets quite complicated in an omni-channel scenario. We try and overlay our brand metrics along with the retail metrics that we have. So we do, say, for example, in our own stores, we do measure our footfalls, right? The sheer number of people who walk into the stores. Or in the department stores, we've got our business data, right? So how are we ranking in terms of revenue? How are we ranking in terms of competition performance, etc.? And those are the metrics that we track or overlay against the brand spends and the brand metrics. What Ritu mentioned a little earlier is also as much as possible, and it's not entirely possible in a complicated distribution environment, but as much as possible, bring the brand or the marketing performance metrics, whether it is brand marketing, whether it is performance is clearer, as well as your programmatic metrics, closer to what the business ends measuring, right? The business ends up measuring, in case of offline retail, ends up measuring the footfalls that come in. It ends up measuring the conversions that happen in the store. It ends up measuring what are the ABVs that we're able to generate with every walk-in that comes into the store, and then try and understand what are the business metrics that, whether through brand marketing spends or through performance spends, that you can, as a marketer, influence.
Wonderful, wonderful. And as consumers are evolving, right? The natural linear way of bifurcating a programmatic impact on performance and so on and so forth. I think we spoke about it. The channels are omni-channel. That is, for you, again, the marketplace is a big reality in the way consumer selections happen or the search happens, right? What would you want to do then to build more loyalty? This is an open question. Any of you can answer.
So I'll start off since I have the mic. I think a great product that delivers builds the most loyalty. If you don't fail as a brand and as a product to the customer, you will have the customer coming back to you through whichever channel, right? Whichever marketing funnel that you activate. So to me, that is something that you do. And obviously you have a retention /CRM /lifecycle machinery behind that, you retain that customer. But yeah.
Excellent point.
Adding to her point, it is what she said is very true, but mainly for organizations which have a touch and feel product.
Correct.
For a company like me, which we don't feel, touch, see anything, we have given you, or rather, we are aiding you to maybe reach your goal or dream or whatever. There, I think loyalty is built over a long period of time by the customer service promise and how do you handle when something goes wrong, and whether you are actually being transparent while you're selling, you're not hiding anything, and so on. There are so many attributes. Yeah.
True. What about you, Ritu?
Yeah. So I come from consumer health or personal healthcare, right? And globally, it's one category space where the top 5 brands have not changed over a very long period of time. So there is apparent loyalty that people have, because when it comes to personal health, that's the last space where we want to change the brands that we use.
Right.
Despite that, I personally believe that there is nothing called brand loyalty any longer.
Interesting. Tell me more.
I think if a brand believes that I've built brand loyalty, I can sit back and enjoy the love of this consumer base, that's not going to happen any longer. A brand needs to continue investing in its awareness, brand fundamentals on a consistent basis, keep building its equity metrics. And there is no alternate way to that if we want a longer term sustained business model. At the same time, I have to be present in those moments when somebody is looking for that connected need. So if somebody is searching for a luggage and I'm not there online, then it's a very high possibility that they will make a choice and move somewhere else. They're not going to say that, okay, I'm going to just live with this because I love this brand so much and I'm a loyalist. So in that context, brand loyalty is a limited concept. And in the high competition world that we live in, even in healthcare, where the loyalty tends to be much higher, if I'm not present in that moment of truth, in that moment when somebody is looking for that need, and there is another competition which is making a promise, there's very high chance that that shift will happen. So for a sustained business growth, I have to invest continuously, whether it is keeping my current consumer base or adding new to them, both through fundamentally investing in the basic brand building and being present in that moment when somebody is looking for that product through programmatic. So both are important, and brand loyalty as a concept in its pure form does not exist any longer.
Interesting. A different perspective. What about you, Suyash?
Ritu not only took my spiel, but also took the mic. So, but having said that, yeah, I know loyalty is a very shaky topic when you see that consumers have so many options, apparel industry, a lot of options, boutique brands coming up. To keep a consumer fixated to a certain brand is an effort from the, and rather than if you do your economics right, you'd rather continue building mental availability, physical availability, being more I would say impulse than continue investing in people. But having said that, my industry depends on very simple two facts. Once the consumer buys into my product, I have to give a good after sales service. Most of the consumers who come back to the shop within 0 to 1 year kind of a period always come back, not to buy a new bag, but to complain about the one existing. So my storefronts, my CRM plays a very, very important role in how they address the consumers, and that's the philosophy that they buy in. And I think so VIP has that strength, and they always the network of stores that we have always makes it ensure that a consumer is never left without a bag, even if in 24 hours. So either we give a replacement or we try to fix it as soon as possible. Apart from that, I think so once a consumer buys into a brand, what are the other offerings that we are giving to that person also depends a lot, because when it comes to our industry, our category primarily, it is not a lot of ancillary things that we give. But these are very immediate things, like I'm going for a travel, I have a long haul flight, am I giving you that neck pillow that you need? Yeah, it is available over there. You want to buy an extra lock if you're traveling by train? Yeah, of course we give that. And the surround has to be very perfect, and the brands need to approach the consumer as a human being and not as a data set.
Yeah.
So I think the humanizing that experience towards your consumer is something that will keep your consumer close to the brand. Loyalty, I think, is a thing of past, because I personally, if you ask me, VIP, everybody will say that parents brand and all of
Yes.
that, but kids do buy into VIP because they experience what their parents experienced before, on points like durability, after sales service, and what else I can get from a shop
Yes.
when I have to travel.
Yes, yes, excellent point. And it's a divided group on loyalty existing and not. And I think it's an evolving concept because we go through these cycles of loyalty and then cycles of separation, depending on the generation shifts that we're seeing on the adoption of categories.
But I have a,
Sorry, just to add. Sorry.
I just want I have a complaint against such strong brands like VIP, is that they don't, at least I never felt that they try to get further data about the buyer. Firstly, you're selling through third-party distributors. Secondly, you don't know anything about me, and as a result, maybe your ability to cross-sell, upsell, or getting to know my lifetime value is limited.
I shouldn't have come to the panel late, I believe so. But yeah, you're right, because see, when a category is lowly penetrated, the company always focuses on how to get more consumers into the play. Yeah. If you ask me, does Colgate worry about anybody who is brushing teeth with Pepsodent? Yes, it has to worry, because it's a 99.8% penetrated category, and every consumer who's not happy with the competitor will have to be bought in. For us, because our network, I would say it's a people heavy category, and our organization also is people heavy. So I think they never matured to the point where they thought that should have this information. But then the Black Swan movement, and we thought everything needs to be important. Also, big company, not that agile. We're trying to build those structures, and I assure you, by the end of 2024, you will see VIP reaching out to you more than you expected, and you will say, "Why is he reaching out to me now?"
We are used to credit card calls. Don't worry.
Yeah, so whenever I address something, I will always say that BFSI sets up, because of the constraints that they have from the government, they set up the highest benchmarks on how to treat a consumer, how to approach a
But
consumer.
we have an advantage also. By nature, we collect customer data.
Yeah.
By nature of the product.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying it's a divided view on the loyalty because of your connections are with the customer, right?
Just to add to that, right? And I work probably amongst all the other categories and all the other sectors. I work in fashion retail, right? Which sees the most fleeting loyalty,
Yes.
especially amongst women shoppers here. You probably understand, right? I think the loyalty is towards the trend and the style and not so much towards the brand. Therefore, it's important to constantly drive top of the funnel, right? Whether it's through programmatic, whether it's through your offline brand building, etc. You have to constantly work on bringing in newer customers who are aware of your brand, who consider your brand, who know you for whatever it is that you want to stand for in the marketplace.
Yes. Thank you for that, because till now we've been talking about loyalty and programmatic driving it, or programmatic branding versus a performance agenda. Now I'm twisting this from a heart to a very hardcore question, which is from what you expect of the data and tech ecosystem. What do you expect more of? What do you want more of from the programmatic lens? Is it enough what you're getting? Where do you see marketeers like you benefiting from the programmatic data ecosystem? Because audience typology ho gaya.
It has to, there are long-standing pain points of marketeers. So
Let's
it has
talk
to
about
resolve
that.
that.
Yes, let's talk about that.
So I think the biggest pain point is maybe an unified cross-channel attribution model.
Yes.
I should know a customer has come from which medium to which medium, which channel to which channel, where he has dropped off. So as a brand, I can spend more on the place where he's dropping off.
Correct.
I think that is the biggest
All
problem.
of them are nodding.
I think that's the one.
Yeah.
But also because the ecosystem is evolving and maybe soon enough, maybe not at the end of 2024 and with the whole cookie deprecating, etc.
Okay.
Maybe somewhere in the future, we should have a clearer view of a multi-channel attribution and also to be able to avoid duplication and more transparency, right?
Right.
Because after a point, you will still have metrics which are, in my case, they will be more channel specific. So it will be nice to have a more unified view of things.
Predictive analytics
Very important point.
and maybe better fraud management.
Yes, definitely the need of the hour. And I think on the fraud management, a lot of is happening. A few of the partners also here with us. Ritu, Suyash, if it's the same.
Yeah, I think very similar, specifically in the space of programmatic. I think this is one of the biggest things because, of course, we are looking at how can we be very specific in terms of who can I reach, what behavior am I trying to address, at what time of the day, with what content. So if I don't figure out which of these rights that I was trying to get right, I didn't get right,
Correct.
then how do I fix it?
Right.
So I think today there's a lot of understanding through, the A by B testing, etc., that we figure out on messaging that, okay, this message is working better than this one. But then as they move from one platform or one page to the other, as those transitions happen, as those drop-offs happen, where did I miss them out? And how can I fix that? There can definitely be a lot more data. And I think there is some of that data which is there, but how do I make it easy? How does it become easy to access for large groups of data or consumer profiles, and then make it use with agility, maybe weekly or every fortnight, I'm looking at it and able to make those adapts. Because the single biggest principle of programmatic, which or the biggest value add besides the whole targeting is efficiency.
Yes.
Because it is about making the same money work harder, because you're able to get so much more learning because of the data analytics available. And the next time you're spending the same rupee, it's working harder for you. So all the data that can make that rupee work harder for the brand, I think a lot is there, but a lot more available to
Feed
use.
forward.
Feed forward.
Yes. And I'll take last comments from Suyash and then we'll open up in case anybody has questions.
See, I don't have any complaints. Okay. Whatever I'm getting, I'm very happy with it. Okay. I think these are all problems of the plenty.
Yes.
And currently, all these categories are heavy.
Clearly.
Yeah. So the thing is that as rightly said, I'm still struggling to find my old customers and trying to reach out to them.
Correct.
For me, any piece of information that comes through is really appreciated. See, travel is a journey, okay? And as we call it, it's a synonym. Because once I start looking at flights, I want to book to my next destination, suddenly something happens or I do something else. They leave breadcrumbs all over. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I go ahead and address that consumer. So somewhere, I think over-personalization, over-digging into the data also leads to wastage.
Very nice.
So I just want to be frugal and take my steps and try to understand the consumer data, and try to reach out to them first. And post, when I have that plenty, I'll definitely contribute to this question.
Wonderful perspective. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you, panel. I'm opening up to the quorum if they have any questions. Yes, Ratan.
Category-wise, the mix or the ratio between branding and performance. So you are representing various sectors from fashion, online retail to BFSI to healthcare products, and likewise accessories. And you can add more, categories as you go ahead. There's always a dilemma, and we keep getting different kind of answers.
Of course, where a category is under-indexed or over-indexed, that may happen. It may also happen in terms of a price point of the SKU. And the parting question could be, does FMCG really require performance marketing?
Okay, so it's a layered question, and I have multiple answers for this. See, what usually happens is that the lines between performance and branding is blurred right now. And I have this simple principle for all the marketers out here that any piece of content that goes out, whether it has your logo or is branded, there's one simple trick that you can do is that keep no dead ends. All of that should lead to a certain decision making. You don't know what moment of truth that consumer is, and he should get an opportunity to buy whatever product he is looking at. Having said my category, currently pre-COVID it was around 65% branding, 35% towards performance of how you distinguish it. Now I think so it's moved to around 40% branding, 60% performance, because new age brands are heavily spending on performance marketing because they're capturing those online consumers. When you address for FMCG, different brands are developing different strategies and they're building different baskets that consumers come and buy. So good fortune of me working with multiple and for multiple FMCGs. I can tell you one thing. They're looking at data when they're looking for a performance campaign, and they want to address to their consumers more. I think in a personalized way. That's why they are building these performance metrics internally. Of giants like Levers, they have 13 and more brands which are only for them. I think so. Performance marketing is bread and butter. For other than that, if you ask me, Colgate, Mondelez, they are building products and they're building baskets which can be addressed to performance marketing. So their mix will continue to evolve over a period of time. And currently, I think so they're spending around 10-15% of their monies towards performance, but sooner it will start growing towards it as the lines keep blurring.
Thanks, Suresh.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So let me take the FMCG one first. So I used to work with Procter & Gamble for this. And I think FMCG is too vast to just answer that as FMCG should do or should not do programmatic. Depending on the category, the life stage of the consumer, it varies. It will be very different for a diaper versus a detergent. But to just answer it simply, I don't think any category or any brand can afford to not do programmatic absolutely today, because it's as simple as not being there and you want to have a presence. The degree of that presence, the extent of investment, the ratio in your overall media spend, etc., could vary depending on the category, the audience, their life stage that you're trying to target. Also, your brand's objectives overall.
I think he's asking the performance marketing is required for.
Yeah, that's
okay.
That's what I'm trying to answer. So am I answering in the right space or no?
Yeah, so the audience here knows that all categories do performance marketing. And it's, of course, as what Suyash was saying, whether 12% indexed in the travel industry and the category, therefore, has more to grow. Okay, and therefore, branding stroke programmatic will make more sense. FMCG is known to do branding, right? So we know over here that all categories are doing branding, but we are just trying to understand question one from the panel. What kind of a mix today would you see between branding and performance generally for your respective categories? And how do you see that change? So mentioned that, with new players coming in, Earlier, he was 60% on branding and 40% on performance. Now, he flipped it out. Probably I got the percentages wrong, but that's what he meant to say. The second question was CDP, D2C, that thing is happening from the FMCG space. And they have definitely a huge base. And everybody knows that once you get that data as one PD, then you can, of course, leverage it later on. But purely, do they really require, does a Bisleri require performance marketing? 7 rupee will get it. Does a biscuit Parle G 5 rupee require it?
So I've got a
so
indication of time up.
Yeah.
But the wonderful questions, and I think we can take it off the side.
Sure.
I love panel discussions where we don't end, right? Because there's so much, and I can see it on all their eyes, how much learning we have and sharing we have. The media planner in me also wanted to get into it, like, let's sit and solve for it, right? But this is not the space. So thank you so much for this lovely discussion. Thank you to all those who are listening. And that's it from me.
Wonderful. Can you have a huge round of applause for our session chair and for our panelists? May I request for a quick photo op at the center? And I take this opportunity to welcome on stage Mr. Siddharth Davde, Managing Director for MIQ, to join us on stage and present mementos to our esteemed panelists. Let's welcome him with a huge round of applause, everybody. We'll just have a quick picture first, right here. And we'd love to present mementos to our panelists. First of all, a big round of applause for Preeti Murthy, Apurva Maheshwari, Kaushik Chakraborty, Ritu Mittal, and Suyash Dogre. Zordar taaliyan ho jaye. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, your insights. With this, we'd like to thank our esteemed panelists. A quick picture right here. And may I request Siddharth to be on stage for a few more minutes after this as well. Can you have a huge round of applause, everybody, for our panelists for today? That summarizes this session. Thank you so much for joining in. And we also promised you a contest for which I'd request Siddharth sir to be back on stage. So we've chosen a winner to receive that gift hamper, and the winner is Reena Jagtap. I request Reena to join us. I believe Reena is not in. We have, oh, she's right here. She's right in time for her gift hamper. So, a round of applause for our winner as well. Zordar taaliyan, everybody. And a photo op. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. And this brings us to the end of the second edition of E4M GroupM Programmatic Summit. You've been a wonderful audience. We will see you next year. Thank you. Thank you so much. Arjun Rahul signing off on behalf of the entire Exchange for Media team. Thank you so much.